Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Enjoy the Bounty of Planning with Tanisha Taylor. So y'all, I am sitting down to record this video for the second time. Y'all know when I usually do my unboxing videos, I actually unbox. So I don't know how, but somehow I ended up recording the last video, the original unboxing, in slow-mo. I might try to figure out a way to put it in here to show y'all what we not gonna talk about it. Anywho, this video is a reshoot of the 2024 sort of unboxing of the things that I got for my 2024 calendar. So over here, I have the bag that everything came in and the keep folder that they send us with the receipt. And then we have some of the journaling cards, the little freebies. So I had to remind myself to just thrive through this moment. But I also wanted to show this card. I love them both. I think they're really lovely. And then this one with this quote from Rick Rubin says, "Always remain open to turns and surprises along the way." And then the smaller print says, "You never know when you're going to do your best work. Be willing to experiment." So I love this as a sentiment for the start of the new year. So I kind of wanted to show these as part of this video as well. So we're just gonna slide these back in here because we're definitely gonna use those. So what I got for 2024 is actually a lot less than I got for when I set up my 2023 and my 2022, my 2021, way less than I've gotten in past years from Cloth and Paper. And honestly, this is probably all it's going to be. I'm going to get note pages to fill in the note section, obviously. I end up usually buying some of the executive notes inserts throughout the year. Right now, I actually think I have, I'm about to say I think I have enough to start 2023 and just realize, girl, those are the ones that you bought to last you through fall term. So I'm probably gonna need to buy more executive notes at the beginning of the year. But right now, I'm not planning to purchase the monthly tabs because I'm going to use the ones that I already have. And unless something else comes out in terms of a folio cover or something like that, I usually get my folio covers from Nautique. I do have a Cloth and Paper agenda cover that right now I'm using over my two executive notebooks to keep them looking nicer. But right now I'm not planning on purchasing any covers for 2024. I will be purchasing discs for 2024. Right in front of me here, I have my two current notebooks that I'm using. So in my current 2023 calendar is on a set of black Tulle 2-inch discs. These are the same discs that I use to store my calendar. So my personal calendar will be on these discs for 2023. So my current discs that I'm using in my planner, I'm currently using the black metal discs from Nautique. These are probably going to be the discs that I will start using in 2024. I may get some additional rose gold colored ones or silver or something, we'll see. But I expect that I'm actually going to purchase, the only other thing I'm going to purchase for 2024 for these two planners is actually a set of discs to store the planner on, so that they are not just loose pages out in the world. But let's take a look at the three things that I purchased. These are the foundation to my work planner and my personal planner. As I've said on this channel before, I am a department chair. I also run one of the research centers on my campus. And so for that reason, I keep my work planner and my personal planner separate. Now, when I was a faculty member and didn't have an administrative role, I used one planner. And like one planner, one notebook. But as an administrator, that's not really something I can do because as an administrator, my daily planner and notes are something that could be called in a legal case, and I don't want my personal information mixed with my work information for that reason. So I got some amazing, wonderful advice from a department secretary years ago when I took my first interim administrative position, who told me separate those things. Don't do that, because if something does happen. And oddly enough, 6 months later, I was called by general counsel at my university and told that my records were being subpoenaed. The only reason why I didn't have to turn anything over is actually because of the dates of the subpoena. I was not employed with the university at that time, so there was nothing for me to turn over in terms of my personal records. But what I did have to do was prove that I wasn't an employee of the institution at that time. So I actually had to turn over my academic transcripts to show that I was actually still in graduate school during the dates of when this issue was when the issue occurred. And so because I had actually started working there later in that same year when the issue occurred, but I wasn't working there when the issue happened. So I actually had to prove that I wasn't an employee, which was slightly annoying, I'm not gonna lie. But I remember that the day I got that phone call, I walked out of my office, went into my department secretary's office, closed her door, and gave her a hug and thanked her. Like, I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And she was like, yeah, I didn't actually know she was like, I figured they weren't gonna ask you about that because you didn't work here then. But I was like, yeah, but now I have to verify that. And so, that was a whole separate issue. Anyway, long story to say, if you're thinking about going into administration at a public university, even a private university, a university at all, period, you may want to consider having two separate calendars, one that has all of your work life on it and one that has your personal life on it, so that if something happens and you do have to turn over those materials, you don't have to turn over your whole life to people. So free advice, friends. So that's why I do it. It does sometimes make things a little bit hectic because you are always flipping back and forth throughout your day to be able to make sure that you have everything. Now, I do have an electronic calendar where that is essentially, and I've said this before, is essentially my master calendar that has everything on it, that has all of my personal and all of my work. So all of my work things are on my work electronic calendar. My university uses Outlook, so everything's on there, and then I sync that to my personal calendar so that I can see it all in one place. And every week I sit down and I write out all of the work things on the work calendar and all the personal things on the personal calendar. And I will be doing the exact same thing in 2024. So I have a yearly overview. I have the yearly dated daily Monday start for 2024 from Cloth and Paper, and then the vertical weekly Monday start from Cloth and Paper. These are both so beautiful. Cloth and Paper does such a beautiful job with their product. I absolutely love it. I love using the yearly overview, the year overview, to be able to keep those large events, right? So in 2023, I'm gonna show you something that I'm gonna talk more about in another video. But this year in the overview, I started in July, where I actually numbered out the lines to be able to have just a way to be able to track the big events that are happening, right? So things like the first day of summer 2, when one of the community education programs that my center runs, you know, some big personal items, conferences, teaching dates in the fall, when my conference submissions are due, when things have to be to QJS, because I'm the book review editor for that. So I decided this is the first time I've done this where I've numbered out these lines, and I have to tell you already, I absolutely love it. I plan to do the exact same thing for 2024, and then be able to just use my color, clear dot pens, because maybe sometimes I'll end up using stickers, but being able to use these clean color dot pens to be able to just dot the things that are important, highlight the things that are important based on my color coding is something that I plan to do in 2024 as well. So that's how this is going to be used as a perpetual calendar. Really what I like to put in here are really more like vacations, teaching days, conference due dates, grant due dates, and things for the review that I have to take care of as a reviewer. I don't tend to put like birthdays and stuff like that on here, although I could. I just generally don't. I have it in the past, and I probably won't in 2024 either. Part of that I suspect is because, in part, again, I'm always kind of thinking about if I do have to turn things over, you know, and this ends up being one of the things I have to turn over. I would want it to have less personal, right? Now you're probably thinking, okay, but I saw on the 2023 you put vacation. Well, yeah, because vacation is something I have to report to my employer, right? And so they already know when I'm on vacation because I have to put that on my time every month. And so so that's why that is fine for me. And even things like the putting in dentist appointments, doctor's appointments, also fine with me, because again, I have to, especially if they're during the week, I'm taking sick time to take care of that. So, you know, it's one of those things that they went back and look in their records, they'd see that I took sick that day, right? And so that kind of thing doesn't necessarily bother me. But like, would I want them to know like when my nephew's birthday is? Probably not. And so, because that's not really a work thing. But anyway, that's my thought about that. So this is laid out in pretty much the same as it was in 2023. 2023, there's really no change. So you have your lined, now in this, it is a Sunday start calendar, which I'm not a fan of, but whatever. Then you have your to-do list and your notes, and every spread, so every set of 2 pages is 1 quarter. So they're just splitting the year up into quarters. So you have January, February, and March is quarter 1. Then you have quarter 2, April through June. Quarter 3, July through September. Quarter 4 is October through November. And then at the end, you have your aspirations. You have 2 pages for your aspirations for the year, and then 1 page for your accomplishments at the end of the year. Now, the truth is, I don't think I've ever written on these pages, like even written on them, much less use them for what they're actually intended for. And I think that's because I just have enough other note pages, and because I also tend to do like a personal yearly planning with kind of like a workbook that has like some prompts and questions, and I tend to do that in another notebook, so that's why I don't really use these pages, but they're useful. And then you just have your back page that tells you what this is. So as a reminder, I do everything in the half letter, and so yeah, so I'm excited about that. And then we have the vertical weekly with the Monday start. Now this is the personal planner and this is the work planner. Look at the difference in thickness between the daily and the weekly. Like that's a lot of pages, right? Like, yeah. So whoa. Well, that's a fun visual. So May to December is the equivalent page stack wise and number of pages as the entirety of the vertical weekly. So if you're trying to debate between a daily planner and a weekly planner in the size that you get from Cloth and Paper, you could definitely have this on an entire set of like 1.5 inch discs, which is the size that I use in my planner. So I carry every day my planner on 1.5 discs. So this whole year can fit on 1.5 discs. If you put it on 1-inch discs, it is gonna be tight, but it will fit. You won't be able to fit anything else though on that set of 1-inch discs, because it'll be just the weekly planner. But if you're somebody that really likes to carry your whole year with you for whatever personal preference reasons, if you carry it on 1.5 inches, you'll definitely still be able to carry this with a little bit of notes, maybe a couple of other additional sections, but not a whole lot. I personally only carry 3 to 4 months because I'm carrying 2 different planners, and because the daily is so much, there's so much more paper here. I tend to only carry 3 months at a time. Now, and the truth is, I don't carry the whole month for those 3 months. So for example, right now in my planner, I have just Q3 right now. So I have August, September, and October. I have the entirety of the month of August, but for September and October, I'm only carrying the actual monthly calendar, right? So I'm not carrying any of the weeks for these 2 months, but I am carrying those 3 months for both the work planner and the personal planner, okay? Now, the reason for that is because, especially for the work planner, with school, you definitely need to at least have the month so that when you get dates, when things are happening, you can write those down. Because now I tend to use a black pen for everything, I tend to go ahead and just write them right on the date, because the boxes in the 2023 are so small, I can usually only get 1 or 2 meetings or appointments on that monthly outlook anyway. And so after consulting my electronic calendar real quick to make sure I don't have anything, I go ahead and write it in on the paper calendar. Now, in the new 2024, Ashley and her team have already told us we're going back to the larger boxes, which is actually kind of exciting. I might actually go back to using more page flags and more sticky notes now, because the boxes are going to be big enough to hold them. Instead of in the 2023, if you use a sticky note, it's bigger than 1 day. So it's just kind of like, why, you know? But we're supposed to be going back to those larger boxes. So one of the, like for example, one of the circle sticky notes will fit in a box for the day. So we're gonna leave out palette number 7 for a second. I love this palette, it's so beautiful. To kind of test that theory out and see if we're back with those bigger boxes. So I am in love with the fact that these new planners come with this beautiful photographic cover. I love, excuse me, I love a good cover art on a planner. I think when your planner looks beautiful and feels beautiful, you want to use it more. And so I love this as a starting point. And I know who I am in the world. And I get the monthly Cloth and Paper subscription, which usually includes a dashboard every month. So I'm probably gonna change it up throughout the year, because I honestly don't even remember what my planner looked like in January. Like, I would literally have to go back and look at one of the videos to know what it even looked like at the beginning of the year when I started this whole 2023 journey. But I love this because I can live with this for a little while and then move on to whatever I want next as the year goes on. But this is so beautiful. And then you have your This Planner Belongs To page, and then which has a page of notes on the back. You have your Year at a Glance, which is just a nice reference. I can honestly say I don't really use mine that much. I sometimes use it, and we'll do something like this where I'll use a transparent sticker like this, and I'll put it over the month to show that the month has passed. And I'll use like the same color for the whole quarter, and then another color, and then another color, and then another color. But I don't really look at it that often, and so I don't always do that. I think I'm doing it right now, my 2023, but there you go. So on the back of that, you have a set of note pages, which, you know, is great if you also want to have another place where you're writing down those big events, like the first day of school, the first day of midterms, the first day of final exams, the last day of school, commencement. You know, if you want to write down like those big dates of like conferences, things like that. Or maybe you just want to use this just to have a piece of note paper, because who doesn't love just having a piece of note paper? And then you have your holidays and observances, and then note paper on the back. What I really love about the way that they're doing this now at Cloth and Paper is that really now this section can all be at the front of your planner, and there's nothing else you have to split apart in order for this to really be a sort of a preface section, right? And I love that for us. I really do. And then you have your months. Now, besides the fact that they told us that the boxes are bigger, the other thing I'm excited about is, again, that separation. So every month is going to have a quote page. These quotes, I actually forgot to look and see. I did notice that the quotes were the same people, but some of the quotes were different from the last time they did the quote page as a cover. So I think if you got the 2022 calendar, then the cover art for each month was a different quote. What I love about that, and what I started doing toward the end of the year, is just highlighting randomly different parts of the quote. So it kind of gave it that read through feel that I think as academics we kind of like. At least I like it as an academic, right? That idea that you've read text, you've lived with text, you've thought about it, right? I've actually even toyed with this year, maybe even writing in the margins the way I would normally write in the margins of a book. Just to give it a little bit more of that sort of academic kind of school feel, because I just kind of like the quotes. So we'll see. We'll see if I end up doing that next year. On the back, you do have a page of notes, which means you could use this cover or not use this cover depending on what you want to do. Then you have is your monthly layout. So the monthly layout for 2024 is the same as it has been for the last couple of years. So you have your goals section. You could break down into your 6 goals, your running to-do list, your important dates, and then your bills due. As I've said multiple times, I really don't usually use this page at all. I usually clip whatever dashboard I'm using for the month or cover I'm using for the month. I usually clip them together to the monthly tab. So when I pull the tab, the whole thing goes open and opens to the month section. But they're there if you want to use them. There are some months when I have used these. So in the bills area, I think I've said this before, I'll usually write in whatever conference registration is due. If my membership to the organization is due, the registration is due, that's usually where I'll write this kind of information in, because that kind of stuff is usually due a couple of months, a month or a couple of months before a conference. So I'll write it in during that time when it's due. And then if there's any other important dates, like again, you know, here I'll usually write, if I'm gonna use this section, I'm gonna use it to write like birthdays, big parties that friends are having. At least that's what I'll use this section for in my personal section. In my work section, I'll use this place to put like big campus dates that are important. Like the census date, like especially dates that are important to me as an administrator, right? Census, grades due, when things like the last day to drop, last day to withdraw, things like that, I might write here. right? Now, for the monthly layout, the boxes are bigger. As you can see, again, I do get the Monday start. So let's see how, now the circles used to fit in the days. Oh, and they do again. Look at that. I love this for us. I really do. Because this is actually gonna get me to using my, my page flags again. So the circles 100% fit. Let me see if I have any squares with me right now. I do. So the squares used to fit, the squares were perfect for the, so these are, both the circles and the squares are 1 1/4. Yep, and the squares fit again with a little bit of overhang, just a touch. Okay, which you could just overhang it, you know, if you wanted to. Oh, I did it again. I matched it up perfectly again. I can't help myself. What can I say? But so I hope y'all can see that. I hope it's focusing. Let's make sure. Oops, let's get in the frame. There we go. So these, both the squares and the circles are 1 1/4. So you can see that that is lined up perfectly. So I love the bigger boxes. I can honestly say, actually, the smaller boxes did not bother me before. So for me, the smaller boxes did not bother me before. I really liked them, but it was a little bit annoying if you had more than 2 things going on in a day. Now, I also, and I've said this on multiple videos over the years, I write really small. I never used to think I wrote small until my grandfather, once I sent him a card and he was like, baby girl, your writing is tiny. And I don't know, I stayed writing small, but the smaller boxes didn't bother me that much. But like I said, I did notice that I could really only write 1 or 2 things in the box. So if I had 3 big meetings or 3 big events that I needed to pay attention to on that monthly overview, I couldn't write the 3rd one in the box. It was too small. I also found that, like, since I had stopped using the Post-it notes because the Post-it notes were bigger than the box, I would often just write a meeting in, and then later on, you know, a month or 2 later, when it was time to plan the rest of the month, I didn't have enough room on that date to write in whatever else was going on that date. So that's a drawback. But I did like that in 2023, we got the bottom to use for notes. So in 2023, the bottom of the left-hand page was for notes. The bottom of the right-hand page was for important dates. So you could write those extra things that didn't fit in the box. I can already tell you right here and right now, I'm not gonna miss it. I could already feel it. I'm not really gonna miss it. And the reason why I'm not gonna miss it is because we have a whole 2 pages of notes right here. Whole spread of notes. Who's gonna miss it? Not I, said the Tony Shop. What I am probably going to do though, because I subscribe to the Cloth and Paper sub box and I do get dashboards every month practically in that box, probably going to put this cover over the weekly section, put whatever dashboard we get over this monthly section, and then be able to have this over the weekly, which is still gonna give me that spread of note pages, which I absolutely love already. Right? So imagine just flipping through your planner, having your pre-section. You're gonna have that nice dashboard from Cloth and Paper. Let me just grab one real quick. Hold on. Right? So I could see myself using these vellums, which you can still get on the site, right? These are the monthly vellums. I didn't get any new ones because I already have a set, right? But you could I would actually do it this way and put this over that so that I would have a little weekly decor, and then whatever I got from Cloth and Paper, right? They usually, if they do a dashboard, usually send us either something vellum or something on cardstock. So if it was a month with something on cardstock, I would put that cardstock on the front, right? And then have my monthly, right? And then move this cover that the month comes with, put this vellum because that's not going to add as much bulk to the planner, and it just looks really beautiful as a layering moment. And let this be the beginning to my weekly section, where I would leave this open with those notes and then be able to have my weekly layout just like this. So I already got plans for 2024. This is how I am imagining using this. I'm gonna actually put this right back there so it doesn't get, whoops, so it doesn't get crazy. Now this weekly layout is the exact same way as it's been for a few years. The only change is they went back to where for the weekly or for the month preview at the beginning of the week, we have this date. So the dates for the week are in bold again. Oops. Let's see if we can't get y'all in frame. There we go. Okay, so that's how, whereas in 2023, the current week is actually circled. So that's how they indicate the current week. But in 2024, we're back to bold and then a lighter gray font or lighter gray color for the rest of the month. Okay. Now this one for the vertical weekly does go, so the vertical is intended for you to think about it in terms of the way that each individual day is laid out. So each individual day is laid out on the vertical, but your dates are going horizontally. So you're going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is perfect if you're someone who likes to use the bullet journal method in your pre-dated calendar. And that's the method that I prefer personally, which allows me to write all of my appointments and then any task list below that. And then I just either mark things as complete, started, or I move them, I migrate them to the next day. What I like about doing that also, especially for things that are migrated, is I just indicate that with a little arrow. And then whenever I do finally complete that task for the week, I go ahead and I fill it in on the date where it was originally written instead of rewriting it later. Some tasks I will rewrite twice, but most tasks, especially in my personal planner, I don't. I just go ahead and fill in that box when I do whatever it is, right? So I'm not gonna go through each month because they're all basically laid out the same, but you have for January, your quote is from Jim Rohn. And then Frida Kahlo, sorry. And I feel like I just totally did not pronounce that correctly, and I apologize to everyone for that. And then in March, it's gonna be Maya Angelou. And then in April is Amelia Earhart. And then in oh, now one of the things I do want to point out is if there is a holiday or observance for that day, like for example, on April 10th is the end of Ramadan. That is going to be marked in the upper right hand corner this year for 2024. And so that's actually kind of nice to be able to have that on your monthly calendar, right? So it's Mary Curie for May. John Wooden for June. We have a quote from Jamie Foxx in July. We have a quote from Amy Poehler in August. In September, we have a quote from Stephen Covey. Now, one of the things I do want to note, I've noted it in the past, is this calendar for 2024. For example, the first day of September is Sunday. And so it's going to appear at the end of August. But I believe if we just check, now for this week, it's gonna be just at the end of August. You're not gonna see it again in your September calendar. So if that kind of bugs you for weekly calendars, just know that that's the way that these are laid out. Okay, now I do note, for example, that the last day of September is a Monday. So let's check something, which means for the last week of September, because that week goes to Sunday, you're not gonna have the last day of September in September's weeklies. The last day of September is gonna appear in October's weeklies. So this October is Oprah Winfrey. So note that the first week, or the first day of the week, is the 30th. It's the last day of September. It's going to be in the weeklies for October. Now in October, the last day of October is a Thursday. So let's see what happens for our weeklies. So at the end of October, yep, as I suspected, the week starts on the 28th. It ends on the 3rd. So we're gonna have that in October. So this is gonna be, that means the 1st through the 3rd of November are gonna be in your October weeklies. Now, that should mean then that your November weeklies are gonna start on the 4th. So the November quote is Nelson Mandela. Yes, so the first week of November is going to start with the first full week of November, which is going to be Monday the 4th. So this year, it looks like they're doing something a little bit different than they did in 2023. In 2023, they gave you that week so that your weeklies for the month would show all of the days of that month. And it looks like in 2024, they're not doing that with the weeklies. So you're gonna get the first full week of that month. You're not gonna get the previous dates that were the last part of the week for the previous month. So personally, that doesn't bother me because it's just less paper to have to be worried about. Also, because sometimes I do travel and I will take, for example, I will add the first week of the month to the calendar so that I can have it while I'm traveling instead of having the whole month with me. Which I do sometimes because I need the week, but I don't want to have all the bulk in my planner quite yet. And so for me, that doesn't bother me, but it might be something that I know some people prefer for all the days of the month to be in that month, and you're not going to get that this year. So something to keep in mind. You're going to get the first full week of that month in the month. Okay, our last quote is Diane von Furstenberg. For December. Now, December is an interesting little kitty cat because it's the end of the year. I am sure you're gonna get the end, yes. And the week starts on a Monday. It starts on the 30th, right? So you're gonna get the last 2 days of December and the first 5 days of January in this week because of how the first falls. So you're gonna get, so that'll get you a little bit of start into 2025, okay? And that's the end of 2024. You have your notes for the end of the month, and then you have a contact list, which I actually never use. This ends up on the storage part of the discs and it never ends up in the planner, but you do have that if you wish. And then obviously your page telling you what the product actually is. Okay, so that is our 2024. I'm just gonna bundle that back up. All right. And then for the dailies for 2024, we also have that cover art. Both cover arts, all of the products for 2024 are gonna have some sort of chair vignette. For the cover, they're all gonna be different. Ashley's team, Ashley did say her and her team, their in-house photographer, worked on these covers. So you're not gonna be able to see this or find this anywhere else, which is really lovely. I love that it's all sort of this chair motif, but you're getting different views, different sort of textures of the same chair, which is really interesting to me. So this one is a darker image, which is more in shadow. I don't know where, I think this might last a good portion of the year as the beginning for my personal. I don't know how long this is gonna last for the work planner, but we'll stick it in there, see what happens. So again, we have that cover that's blank on the back, the planner belongs to with the notes on the back, year at a glance with the notes on the back, holiday observances with the notes on the back. Then we have this same quote cover page for the dailies. Now this used to be, if you're somebody who has been with cloth and paper for a while, you remember that the dailies used to be called the week on 4 pages. Then there was called the dailies on 2 pages, and now it's just called dailies. Another great reason to hang on to these so that when you see that look and it looks the same, but the names are different, you can make sure that you're really getting what you want. You know, or, you know, what happens actually more often is that it's called the same thing, but it looks completely different. Like the executive notes, for example, or even the meeting notes. The meeting notes sheets is another great example. It looks completely different from the way that it used to, but they use the same name. So you want to make sure that you're getting what you want. So the quotes on the monthly are going to be the same. And so it is, I did read them through. It's the same quotes, same people every month. You have your note pages, your cover for the month, again, with your task list, your bills, your important dates, and your goals. And then your larger monthly boxes. Now I didn't mention it on the personal. 2 things that I didn't mention on the one I'm using for my personal, which is the vertical weekly, but you might have noticed it there. The holidays and observances are written in a light gray at the bottom of the square. The other thing is that these are going down for 6 rows. Okay, so you're getting your full month plus at least 1 week of the following month. So January 31st is on a Wednesday, which, oh, okay. My birthday is on a Monday this year. That should be fun. And then we've got the 1st through the 11th, because we basically get a week and a half of the next month on this month. Now that can be really useful, especially for like pre-planning for the next month. And so I could see where that might be really useful for folks. You also get your past month and your next month in sort of a preview calendar. Also useful. Sometimes I'll use this, especially again using my clean dot pens, to dot for, like, what I would do for this month is I would dot for like Western States Communication Conference happens in February. So I would kind of preset that date on here just as a reminder that I have something coming up in the next month. Okay, then you have your notes pages, and then you have your, oops, is that 2 pages or 1? No, that's 1 page. Then you have your notes on the front of your weekly section, and then you start with your preview. You have your calendar for the month, your line note sections, And then the sections here are exactly the same as they are on 2023. So you have your day, tasks, agenda, memo. Okay, so you go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I love these. Again, I'm a vertical planner person, so I love that every day is going vertical. I love that the times are not pre-printed, so I can lay this out however I need to. I can start my day at whatever hour I want or need my day to start from day to day. And that's really great for me because my office hours, for example, start at 11, but sometimes I have meetings before that might happen at 8 or 9. And so this way I don't feel like I'm wasting lines because it's lined out to go from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. or something like this, right? Or 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., right? Because I teach at night, so because I teach in the graduate program, so my classes start at 6 and go till 9. So, you know, on those days when I'm teaching, I start my day later. And so this way, because the times aren't pre-written in, it doesn't make me feel like I'm like wasting the whole like top half of the column, right? That I can use the whole thing to write in everything that I need. So that's one of my favorite features about, that's why I keep going back to this as a daily. I also love that even though they refer to this as a daily, you're getting a minimum of 3 days in one spread. And I really, personally, I love that because the first half of my week actually does have a slightly different tone than the second half of my week. And so I really love that I can kind of see that and it works out. I had considered getting the new weekly spread, vertical weekly spread that they have, that I think they're calling the schedule, the weekly schedule option. But when they sent it as part of the sub box to try, I had used that layout previously when it was sampled in a previous box, and I just found that the narrowness of the columns was a little bit too tight for me. So that was a little bit of a problem also on that spread. That spread, the times are pre-written in for you, and that didn't really work for me either. And so that's why I decided to go ahead and stick with this as an option. But if you're somebody who prefers to have the times pre-written in, you might want to consider that layout. Okay, so we have, again, your whole weeks. Now let's take a look at something. Yes, okay. So remember, we said that January 29th is a Monday. So the end of that week is going to be in February. So note that the same thing that they did for the vertical weekly, they're doing for the dailies. So your last 3 days of January are not going to be with the January weeks. It's going to be in with the February weeks. Okay, so you're going to have your February cover, your February monthly layout, your notes, and then you're going to have January 29th, January 30th, January 31st in with the month of February, right? So then you're going to have February 1st through the 4th. Now, if you're someone who likes to keep all of their monthly sections together and then keep all of their weekly sections together, that's going to be less of a big deal because you're going to just go straight into the next month, right? So if you're someone who in your planner, you have a, let me just make sure I didn't do that wrong. Yeah, I did. There we go. So if you're someone who knows you like to keep all of your months together so that you're going to go January, right? You're going to have your January cover and then the month of January and then your notes and then your February cover and the month of February, right? And you're going to continue forward that way. And then you're going to have all of your weekly sections together. So you're going to go from January 1. And then you're going to go through, these are all March. You're going to go January 1, and then you're going to go through and immediately go from January to the very next week in your weekly section is going to be, you know, February, then it will give you a little bit more cohesion where you're keeping those weekly dates together, versus having to split it up under the separate months. Now, me personally, it does not bother me. I would prefer to have the last days of January in with the first days of February, because what I'm really paying attention to on those weeks is that weekly calendar, and I want those weeks together. So this does not bother me. But if you're someone who wants the months to be together, then you're not going to get that here. So just something to keep in mind. I did notice that in 2023, they did do that, where you had your last days of January were with January, your last days of February were with February, your first days of February were with February. So that meant that especially in the vertical weekly, you were getting the week twice, right? So you were getting it at the end of the month and then the beginning of the next month. So that meant for a little duplication in the planner, which I actually did not like. At first I found it a little bit confusing, and then I just kind of got used to it. But I like this, where they're really privileging the weekly setup together. Now, back in the day when they used to have to buy your monthlies separate from your weeklies, they actually did used to basically double up that printing, where you got the last days of January and the first days of February in January, and then you got the last days of January and the first days of February in February. But now, since they sell them together, you don't really get that in 2024, which again, it doesn't bother me. I like it. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, but that's how those are gonna look. Now at the end, let's go ahead and flip to the end, because again, all the quotes are going to be the same, the layouts are going to be the same, but you are going to also get your contact list sheets at the end of the year, and then your half letter and for your product information as the very last page of the planner. And in this case, that page is going to be printed blank. So you could just, if you're someone who doesn't need or want to keep this, you could throw it away. Okay, like I said, I keep them because I don't want to forget what I bought. And I've definitely done that and forgotten what the insert was called. And then when I tried to go back and get it, I couldn't, because I couldn't find anything that looked like what it was supposed to look like, because they had actually changed the layout of it, but it had the same name and a completely different layout. So anywho, so that is what we have for 2024. So my 2024 is going to include the vertical weekly, the yearly overview, and the vertical daily, all with Monday start, or both of these with a Monday start. The year overview, again, does come with the Sunday start. We just learn to get over it, basically, and accept it for the truth that it is. But anywho, so this is what I am expecting to use for 2024, and I am looking forward to it. So thank y'all for joining me on this unboxing, this not unboxing, this recapped unboxing. I don't know what I'm gonna call it, but anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this video. I hope to see you on the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.